Imagine a single figure buried deep within a government report that completely flips the script on the world's most critical economic alliance. This isn't a guess, a theory, or a clickbait headline. It's a verified $37 billion reality that is already rewriting the rules for jobs and industries, all while most of the world is looking. The other way, what if the story we've been told about economic power leaves out the one detail that matters most? While headlines kept talking about control, leverage, and pressure, something else was quietly taking shape inside the numbers. On April 2nd, 2025, a report reached the office of the U.S. Trade Representative. It didn't read like a list of clear wins. Instead, it showed a $13 billion decline in American exports to Canada, alongside an almost $30 billion drop in imports coming south. And behind the scenes, the tone has reportedly changed from certainty to something much more restrained: concern. The initial strategy seemed simple enough: turn up the pressure, increase tariffs, and wait for the response to crack. But Canada didn't simply absorb the impact. It started redirecting that pressure back across the border in a deliberate, structured way. What's unfolding may be one of the most coordinated economic counterplays ever carried out by a country usually seen as Washington's closest partner, not through one dramatic act, but through multiple connected moves that, together, are becoming harder and harder to reverse. To understand what's really happening, you have to go beyond the headline figures in that report. Buried deeper in the language is a phrase: centralized distribution disruption. Put simply, Canada used the structure of its own system to block U.S. products with remarkable speed. Ontario's alcohol market is a clear example, because it is controlled through the elbow. A single administrative decision in March 2025 was enough to halt purchases of American spirits altogether. For U.S. producers, that wasn't a slowdown. It was the overnight disappearance of a billion-dollar annual market. That's what happens when a centralized channel moves faster than fragmented competition can react. And that was only one layer. After that came procurement changes that effectively pushed American firms out of major public contracts. Then a third layer began to build, less visible, but potentially more powerful: consumer behavior. Canadians started shifting toward domestic alternatives, not simply over cost, but because identity, loyalty, and politics began influencing buying decisions. Economists describe this as a feedback loop: policy shapes behavior, behavior strengthens policy, and eventually the pattern sustains itself without needing constant intervention. That's where the consequences stop being abstract. If you're in an industrial state like Michigan or Ohio, this isn't theoretical anymore. The strain is already showing up in the machinery of day-to-day commerce. Supply chains that once moved fluidly are slowing. Components that cross the border again and again during production are facing new friction, quietly draining efficiency from the system. In border communities, tourism and local spending are fading as the overall relationship grows colder. And this is where a deeper risk appears: what analysts call preference lock-in. Once companies and consumers adapt to a replacement, they often don't return, even after the conflict cools. Temporary choices become permanent patterns. Now all of this is converging on a major turning point: the July 2025 review of the North American Trade Framework. This is not a routine administrative moment. It's a genuine fork in the road. Renegotiate, hold position, walk away. Unlike earlier reviews, this one is unfolding in the middle of an active economic confrontation. And if no workable compromise is reached by the end of 2025, today's so-called temporary disruptions may become tomorrow's normal. Capital will relocate, supply chains will be redesigned for good, and by 2026, the numbers may reflect a continental shift that speeches alone can no longer reverse. The idea of one-sided pressure is colliding with the reality of mutual damage. And this story is not winding down, it may be entering its most unstable chapter yet. The divide between the people watching the signals and the people only watching the headlines is getting wider in an economy this interconnected. The difference between preparing early and reacting late can be everything. Watch the data, watch the behavior, watch the signals underneath the noise, because the real shift may already be happening beneath the surface.